We are all nice and cozy and toasty. Yeah, and our matching PJs. No, I had a wonderful time tonight too, baby. I love going look at Christmas decorations, just like, riding around, going to the neighborhoods and looking at all the houses that are decorated. I love it. Plus, it's fun to just drive around with you. It's oddly cozy. Very cozy. Yeah. But I am glad we are back home, inside, all nice and warm, and in front of the fireplace, in our cute little nest of blankets and pillows. Baby, what did we talk about? You opened up a gift earlier. You know the deal. One gift on Christmas Eve, and the rest we save for Christmas Day. Okay? No. Are you gonna get all pouty when mommy know? No, I know you can be the best bunny and wait for me. Okay. We got our 10 barrel of the 3 flavored popcorn that it always comes out stale, but we still eat it and love it. And we got the butter cookies, Christmas butter cookies in the tin that all of our grandmamas used for sewing equipment. Oh yeah, let me tell you, my grandma wasn't really the craftiest or the seamstress, but she definitely had a lot of those Christmas cookie tins that you would see and be like, ooh, cookies. And then you open it up and it's like, ooh, sewing equipment. And of course, we've got our hot chocolate. And all the little accoutrements that go with it. Of course. I would say we are nice and ready for our Christmas stories. Yeah? Okay, let's start. The first story we're going to read, The Elves and the Shoemaker. There was once a shoemaker who worked very hard and was very honest, but still he could not earn enough to live upon. And at last, all he had in the world was gone, save just leather enough to make 1 pair of shoes. Then he got his leather out, all ready to make up the next day, meaning to rise early in the morning to his work. His conscience was clear, his heart light, amidst all his troubles. So he went peacefully to bed, left all his cares to heaven, and soon fell asleep. In the morning after he had said his prayers, he sat himself down to his work. When, to his great wonder, there stood the shoes already made upon the table. The good man knew not what to say or think at such an odd thing happening. But he looked at the workmanship. There was not 1 false stitch in the whole job. All was so neat and true that it was quite a masterpiece. The same day a customer came in, and the shoes suited him so well that he willingly paid a price higher than usual for them. And the poor shoemaker, with the money, bought leather enough to make 2 pairs more. In the evening he cut out the work and went to bed early, that he might get up and begin betimes next day. But he was saved all the trouble, and when he got up in the morning, the work was done already to his hand. Soon and came buyers, who paid him handsomely for all his goods. He bought leather enough for 4 more pair. He cut out the work again overnight, and found it done in the morning as before, and so it went on for some time. What was got ready in the evening was always done by daybreak, and the good man soon became thriving and well off again. One evening, about Christmas time, as he and his wife were sitting over the fire chatting together, he said to her, "I should like to sit up and watch tonight, that we may see who it is that comes and does my work for me." The wife liked the idea, so they left the light burning and hid themselves in a corner of the room behind a curtain that was hung up there, and watched what would happen. As soon as it was midnight, there came in 2 little naked dwarfs, and they sat themselves upon the shoemaker's bench, took up all the work that was cut out, and began to ply with their little fingers, stitching and wrapping and tapping away at such a rate that the shoemaker was all wonder, and could not take his eyes off them. And on they went till the job was quite done, and the shoes stood ready for use upon the table. This was long before daybreak, and then they bustled away as quick as lightning. The next day the wife said to the shoemaker, "These little wits have made us rich, and we ought to be thankful to them, and do them a good turn if we can. I am quite sorry to see them run about as they do, and indeed it is not very decent, for they have nothing upon their backs to keep off the cold. I'll tell you what, I will make each of them a shirt and a coat and a waistcoat, and a pair of pantaloons into the bargain, and do you make each of them a little pair of shoes." The thought pleased the good cobbler very much, and one evening, when all the things were ready, they laid them upon the table instead of the work that they used to cut out, and then went and hid themselves to watch what the little elves would do. About midnight and they came, dancing and skipping, hopping around the room, and then went to sit down to their work as usual. But when they saw the clothes lying there, they laughed and chuckled and seemed mightily delighted. Then they dressed themselves in the twinkle of an eye, and danced and carped and sprang around, as merry as could be, till at last they danced out the door and away over the green. The good couple saw them no more, but everything went well with them from that point forward, as long as they lived. How are you doing, baby? You still nice and cozy? Nice and warm? Yeah? Okay, my little love. Let's move on to the next one. 'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. And Mamma in her handkerchief, and I in my cap, had just settled down for a long winter's nap. When out on the lawn there arose such a clutter, and I sprang from the bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, torn open the shutters, and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of the new fallen snow gave the luster of midday to objects below, when, what to my wondering eyes should appear, but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer, with a little old driver, so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be Saint Nick. More rapid than eagles, his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donner and Blitzen. To the top of the porch, to the top of the wall, now dash away, dash away, dash away all. As dry leaves that before the wild hurricane fly, when they met with an obstacle mount to the sky, so up to the housetop the courses they flew, with the sleigh full of toys, and St. Nicholas too. And then in a twinkling I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof, as I drew in my hand and was turning around. Down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples how merry. His cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard of his chin was as white as snow. The stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke it encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a little round belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a real jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work, and filled all the stockings, then turned with a jerk, and laying his finger across his nose, and giving a nod, up the chimney he goes. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim, while he drove out of sight, "Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night." I swear you are so cute when you get sleepy. Okay, you just got 2 more left. Yeah. If you want to go to sleep, my love, you can. Okay. The Nutcracker and the Mouse King. It was Christmas Eve, and Maria and her brother Frederick were playing together in their playroom. They weren't allowed downstairs as their parents were preparing a big Christmas feast and party. They were looking forward for their grandfather, Dr. Drosselmeyer, to arrive. Drosselmeyer was a peculiar man with a great gift. He could make and repair all kinds of machines. He especially loved clocks. Maria heard the doorbell ring. "Oh, Frederick, he's here. I wonder what he brought for us this time." Once he brought a little doll with moving eyes. Another time he brought a box with a dancer inside. The children ran downstairs and saw a beautiful fir tree decorated with all kinds of delicious chocolates. The table was filled with turkey, bread, potatoes, and cakes. And there were lights and decorations all around the house. And they saw presents under the tree. Maria instantly took a liking to a beautiful painted wooden doll. He looked a bit like a soldier. He had beautiful shiny black shoes, blue trousers, and a red coat with gold buttons. He looked brave and kind. "Dr. Drosselmeyer, what is that doll?" she asked. "That is a nutcracker, my dear, and since you like him so much, he will be in your care tonight." Maria was delighted and brought the nutcracker to the table, and together with her father they cracked some nuts. Frederick became jealous and ripped the nutcracker from her hands and started cracking nuts with it. But he was rough and the jaw of the nutcracker came loose. "No, Frederick!" Maria cried and quickly took the nutcracker from him. She gently wrapped a ribbon from her hair around his jaw and held him tight. She went into their playroom and nudged Fred's soldiers aside. Maria put the nutcracker in the bed of her beloved doll, Clara. "Clara, take good care of this wounded soldier while I sleep." Suddenly, the clock in the playroom started making strange noises. It started winding around and around and around and around. Maria got scared. She started to hear the trampling of hundreds of little feet in the walls and chimney. She heard high-pitched squeaking all around her. Hundreds of mice appeared before her. They were led by one big, scary-looking mouse, the Mouse King. Maria fell back from fear and knocked over her dollhouse. She hurt her arm badly in the fall and grabbed it crying. All became silent. Maria was scared and confused. Then she heard a noise behind her. The nutcracker had gotten out of bed and said, "My brave soldiers, dolls, stuffed animals, dragons, horses, and other toys here. Will you fight this mice army with me?" "Yes, we will," yelled the toys. "My dear, you are wounded. How will you fight?" said Clara the doll. "We will do it together," answered the nutcracker. The drummer beat his drum and they started marching. The nutcracker spoke inspirational words and lined everybody up. The mice started to fire. Maria was lost in the dust and smoke, and the nutcracker's army fought bravely. But the mice got closer and closer. More toys started falling down left and right, and finally the nutcracker was the last one standing, surrounded by mice. The Mouse King ordered his soldiers to grab him. "No, not my sweet nutcracker!" screamed Maria, who saw this all unfold and threw her shoe as hard as she could towards the Mouse King. Then she felt a sharp pain in her arm and she fainted. Maria woke up from a long, deep sleep. Next to her bed, she saw her mother and doctor. "Oh, Mother, are the mice gone? Where is the nutcracker?" Maria cried. "You foolish child," said her mother. "You gave us such a scare. You played with your new toys until late in the night instead of going to bed. A mouse must have scared you and you fell into your dollhouse, breaking your arm. I found you at midnight unconscious on the floor, surrounded by broken toys." "No, Mother, there was a battle between the mice army and the nutcracker and the toys. They took him." "Maria, your nutcracker is safe in your playroom. Now rest," said her mother. And so for the next few days, Maria lay in bed thinking about what had happened. Nobody believed the girl when she tried to explain what had happened, so she stopped trying. Then, one night, she heard squeaking again and saw the Mouse King right next to her bed. "Give me your Christmas chocolates or I will bite the nutcracker," the Mouse King said. Maria was terrified, but she knew nobody would believe her, so the next evening she put all of her chocolates on a plate near her bed in hopes of saving her nutcracker. The Mouse King ate it all, but came back again that night. "Give me your Christmas cookies or we'll eat your nutcracker," he said, and he came back every night. Maria was sad and talked to her nutcracker. "Oh, Nutcracker, I want to save you, but I don't have much left to give the Mouse King." Suddenly, she felt the nutcracker become warm and started moving in her hands. She put him on the table and he said, "My dear friend, you have helped me so much already. Give me a sword and I will fight the Mouse King." So, she took one of Frederick's toy swords and gave it to the nutcracker. That night, Maria lay awake anxiously, and indeed she heard squeaking again. Terrified she would see the Mouse King again, she closed her eyes. But then she heard a knocking on her door, and the voice of the nutcracker said, "My dear friend, I have conquered the Mouse King." Maria opened the door, and there stood the nutcracker with the bloody sword and the crown of the Mouse King on his arm. "I want to thank you for helping me, Maria," said the nutcracker. "Let me take you to my country and show you all the people you have helped." Maria was excited and followed the nutcracker. They went into the playroom and the nutcracker opened the clock. It started winding round and round and round. And before Maria knew what was going on, she saw glitters, sparkles, and bright lights all around her. "Welcome to Candy Meadow," said the nutcracker, "but we will continue further to the capital." Maria looked around in amazement. It smelled like sweets and candies. There were chocolates growing on trees, and the flowers had beautiful ribbons as leaves. The river was made from lemonade. "Wow, thank you so much for bringing me here. It's magical," exclaimed Maria. People were coming up to them and thanking her for helping them. Then she tripped and started falling. Maria woke up and saw her mother standing next to her. "You have been sleeping for a long time, Maria. "Oh, Mother," said Maria, "the nutcracker took me to the most amazing place." "Maria, don't start again. I can prove it. Look, here is the crown of the Mouse King." And she showed the little crown. Again, nobody believed her. She went into the playroom and grabbed the nutcracker. "Oh, my dear nutcracker, if you were real, I would love you no matter what," said Maria to him. Suddenly, there was a loud knock on the door. Dr. Drosselmeyer's nephew had arrived. He walked straight up to Maria and whispered in her ear, "You broke my spell by telling me you love me. I will come back when you are older and marry you." And a few years later, he whisked her away. They got married and they lived happily ever after in the Candy Kingdom. Well, I wasn't expecting that to be in a story like this. I'm just going to say I do not condone that in the slightest. What the hell? Okay, anyway. You look like you're getting sleepy, baby. Yeah? Come on, do you want to get in Mommy's lap? Of course, Angel. Come on. There we go. Nice and snug. Okay. And now, for our last story, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. You really are. Mr. Grinch. Okay, I'm sorry. How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot, but the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season. Now, please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be, perhaps, that his shoes were too tight. But I think that the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. "And they're hanging their stockings," he snarled with a sneer. "Tomorrow is Christmas. It's practically here." Then he growled with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming, "I must find some way to stop Christmas from coming." For tomorrow, he knew, all the Who girls and boys would wake bright and early. They'd rush for their toys. And then, oh, the noise. Oh, the noise, 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 noise. That's one thing he hated. The noise, 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 noise. Then the Who's, young and old, would sit down to a feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast. And they'd feast, 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 feast. They would feast on Who pudding and rare Who roast beef, which was something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. And then they'd do something he liked least of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, they'd stand hand in hand, and the Who's would start singing. They'd sing and they'd sing, and they would sing, 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 sing. And the more the Grinch thought of this, Who Christmas sing, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 53 years I've put up with it now. I must stop this Christmas from coming. But how? Then he got an idea, an awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. I know just what to do. The Grinch laughed in his throat, and he made a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat. And he chuckled and cluckled, "What a great Grinchy trick. With this coat and this hat, I look just like Saint Nick. All I need is a reindeer." The Grinch looked around, but since reindeer are scarce, there was none to be found. Did that stop the old Grinch? No. The Grinch simply said, "If I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead." So he called his dog Max. Then he took some red thread and he tied a big horn on the top of his head. Then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks on a ramshack sleigh, and he hitched up old Max. Then the Grinch said, "Giddy up," and the sleigh started down towards the homes where the Whos lay a snooze in their town. All their windows were dark. Quiet snow filled the air. All the Whos were all dreaming sweet dreams without care. When he came to the first little house on the square, "This is stop number 1, the old Grinchy claws hissed, and he climbed to the roof, empty bags in his fist. Then he slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch, but if Santa could do it, then so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once for a moment or two. Then he stuck his head out of the fireplace flue, where the little Who stockings all hung in a row. "These stockings," he grinned, "are the first things to go." Then he slithered and slunk, with a smile most unpleasant, around the whole room, and he took every present. Pop guns and bicycles, roller skates, drums, checkerboards, tricycles, popcorn and plums, and he stuffed them in bags. Then the Grinch, very nimble, stuffed all the bags one by one up the chimney. Then he slunk to the icebox. He took the Who's feast. He took the Who pudding. He took the roast beef. He cleaned out their icebox as quick as a flash. Why, that Grinch even took their last can of Who hash. Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee. "And now," grinned the Grinch, "I will stuff up the tree." Then the Grinch grabbed the tree, and he started to shove, when he heard a small sound like the coo of a dove. He turned around fast and saw a small Who, little Cindy Lou Who, who was not more than 2. The Grinch had been caught by this tiny Who daughter, who'd got out of bed for a cup of cold water. She stared at the Grinch and said, "Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why?" But you know that old Grinch was so smart and so slick. He thought up a lie, and he thought of it quick. "Why, my sweet little tot," the fake Santa Claus lied, "there's a light on this tree that won't light on one side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, then I'll bring it back here." And his fib fooled the child. Then he patted her head, and he got her a drink, and he sent her off to bed. And when Cindy Lou Who went to bed with her cup, he went to the chimney and stuffed the tree up. Then the last thing he took was the log for their fire. Then he went up the chimney himself, the old liar. On their walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire. And the one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was even too small for a mouse. Then he did the same thing to the other Who's houses, leaving crumbs much too small for the other Who's mouses. It was 1/4 dawn, all the Who's still abed, all the Who's still a snooze, when he packed up his sled, packed it up with their presents, the ribbons, the wrappings, the tags, and the tinsels, the trimmings, the trappings, 3,000 feet up the side of Mount Crumpet. He rode with his load to the tip-top to dump it. Poo-poo to the Who's, poo-poo to the Who's, Grinchishly humming. They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up. I know just what I'll do. Their mouths will hang open a minute or two. Then the Who's down in Whoville will all cry boo-hoo. That's a noise, grinned the Grinch, that I simply must hear. So he paused, and the Grinch put his hand to his ear, and he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started in low, then it started to grow. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, this sound sounded merry. It couldn't be so, but it was merry, very. He stared down at Whoville. The Grinch popped his eyes. Then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing, without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came. Somehow or other, it came just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, and bags. And he puzzled 3 hours till his muzzle was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville, they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And the minute his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with his load through the bright morning light, and he brought back the toys and the food for the feast. And he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beef. And you're sleeping.